I did my PowerPoint on the LGBTQ community. I did a PowerPoint, and it's basically saying the same thing that I'm going to read to you that I wrote out. And I made a poster board explaining what the different letters mean under the LGBTQ umbrella, such as a lesbian, meaning for the L, G for gay, and queer for Q, or Q for queer. And then intersex, pansexual, and allies. And meaning those three components right here like who they like. So they can like a transgender person and be straight, or be too trans and date, and so on and so forth. Bisexual, questioning, also meaning queer right here, and intermediate and transgender, which we all know transgender is meaning that they are boys but just like a girl. Like you have, so that's that. And I personally don't really care about the LGBT community because I mean, some stuff bothers me. Like, I don't like to see publicized on commercials because kids see that and that makes kids think that's okay, which, I mean, I guess it is, but I don't know how to really explain. It's just not something, it's just not my personal preference, to be honest. I don't understand why you think it's okay for your 7-year-old son to say, I want to just like a girl. I disagree with that because no 7-year-old is going to want to just like a girl unless his parents or his around his family are encouraging that. I think a child should be in a child's place, and if they're a boy, there should be a boy, and if they're a girl, they should be a girl. And if so, they should just stay that way. And if they want to, as they get older, be a transgender or a gay or queer or whatever, then that's okay. But you should let your child stay in a child's place. I don't understand why these parents think it's okay and it's cute. It's not cute. It's sickening, if you ask me. It's disgusting. Like, I want to seem mean. I don't have a problem with gays or queers or whatever they call themselves, bisexuals. It's just not my preference. I like what I like, and I don't like this. I just like what I like. No. It's just a big controversy because some, especially the older generation, like our grandparents and mothers, they think it's an abomination. To be honest, they don't think it's appropriate. You know, they go by the Bible. Like I know in my family they go by the Bible, and they think that is a sin and an abomination. Personally, I just don't want that. It's not my preference. It's not my preference. I also wrote I also wrote something to go along with my poster board. Why do we need so many letters of the alphabet to label sexuality? We don't. Initially, it was inappropriate to publicize your sexual preference. Society frowned upon same-sex relationships. Society and cultural diversity encouraged us to not label ourselves, and we were all one people. Time progressed, people began more passionate about their identity and wanted to be different. We accepted different identities. People were no longer stigmatized for their sexual preference, and the terms lesbian, gay were used without any negative connotation. I do believe also that there's going to be a time where they're going to let females who were born male go to the male restroom, and men who are born men and dressing like a woman go to a woman's bathroom. And I think that's just so disgusting. That is inappropriate, and I'd rather them not do that. But I do believe that there will be a time that it's going to happen. And I also believe that there's going to be a time when we have a gay president or a trans president. I feel it coming because it's like more of our generation or more of our United States or whatever is becoming more into the LGBTQ community. And personally, I think it's a trend. Like, I really think it's a trend. I think people are just following along with it because they don't know who they are within themselves. But also then HBO introduced the show Orange is the New Black. Though we as society knew of bisexuality and transgenderism, it became a clique, and LGBT became the norm. Anyone who considered themselves not heterosexual were part of the LGBT community. The LGBT community grew, and some people within the community wanted to add more labels to their identity. Hence the acronym to their Hence the acronym grew 4 letters to 5, 6, 7, and 10. The acronym is so many letters now within the community that others such as myself have to Google the meaning of the letters past LGBT, which leads to the fact that all other names that some want to use can easily be labeled under the LGBT term. For example, Q stands for queer, like I said before, or questioning. Queer was once considered a negative, now it's not. Queer is also a same-sex person. I stands for intersex, which is one who identifies as something other than what the DNA shows, which is the same as transgender. P stands for pansexual, which are those whose sexual preference without regard to gender identity, the same as bisexual. Also, if you watch the show, A Thousand Pound Sisters, the sister that has, what's her name? I forgot her name, but she considered herself pansexual. If you just to throw that out there, there is some validated itself in identity and being who you are, but putting so many labels doesn't make you who you are, because at the end of the day, we are either a male or female determined by DNA, which brings me to the next reason why so many letters are necessary. My guest will explain from a medical perspective.
Okay, first of all, I'm not as strong against as Caitlin is. I just feel that we are who we are, and who we identify with is our own personal preference. But of course, Caitlin takes it to another level. Anyway, I'm coming from the perspective as a medical professional. I work with medical coding and ICD codes as well as disability claims. And when we are processing claims for disability, it's important that the patient is identified by what gender they were born with. If they're not identified by the genetic material they were born with, that makes it harder for us to process the claims. For example, if we have a claim coming in saying our patient says that they're disabled due to complications from surgery from fibroid tumors, but their name is Sam and they identify themselves as other, we can't code that because we need to know, well, it needs to code as a female because only females can have fibroid tumors. Well, if it's not coded as females, then my medical coders have to track the doctors down to get that change, which it increases our processing time on reviewing that claim, because if the ICD coding not matching what the condition is, it hinders us in processing the claim because we have to go backwards. And once again, as I said, it's not that I don't have a preference of what they want to call themselves, but for the medical community and those of us that are processing these medical records or seeing these medical records, of course, using HIPAA guidelines, we need to be able to communicate to those patients that, yes, I understand that you classify yourself as other or them, but for this purpose of this medical documentation, I need to identify you as the gender in which you were born with.
that's the conclusion of my project.